Phil freaking Martin, how are you, man? It's so good to see you. Obviously not in person, but I feel like we were both. I assume that we were both bear huggers, and if COVID wasn't a thing, this would be a loving embrace, man. How are you? What's going on?
I can't complain. Navigating life through a pandemic is something very new, something very interesting, and
yeah.
living.
Yeah, that's insane. Has you do photography, which we're obviously going to talk about, but you have a full-time job, right? If
I am a train conductor.
That's awesome.
I'd probably prefer I don't say the name of the company. I'm pretty sure we all.
That's okay. Yeah. Don't.
But I'm a train conductor, as well as a photographer for that particular railroad. Every now and again, they pull me for marketing events and different things along the Northeast corridor to photograph, which is pretty cool, having that second talent that they can just be like, we need a photographer and pull the train. But yeah.
That is so cool, man. That's like, you can be, one, you're a fucking train conductor. That's insane. I can't, like, being in DC when I moved here, like every holiday I'd come home to my family and talk to them about a new friend I met or something. And parents would be like, oh, what do they do? And I'd be like, this person works on Capitol Hill, or this person works in the White House, or this person works at the Pentagon, or whatever. And Phil, you're my train conductor guy.
I'm happy to be that person. I've learned that a lot of people I meet and they'll ask me, what do you do? And I was like, oh, I'm a railroad conductor. And they'll be like, I've never met. And it's like, it's one of those jobs where it's like, everyone I work with they're a lot older. They've been doing this for 15, 20 years. And then there's me. Mm-hmm. I've only been an actual conductor for a little over a year now. So it's kind of like the new generation's coming in. So I'm assuming that people pretty soon will meet a lot more train conductors as the older people retire. And
that's awesome. Yeah, you're carrying on the mantle, if you will, or whatever. That's super cool. I imagine. I feel like, at least in America, people think train conductor. I think old mustache, white dude with a hat.
Jean overalls. Don't forget
yeah, exactly. The overalls. Seems like a nice guy. He probably knows the country well, or has a story, right? Like any traveler. And then Phil comes in, 7.5 feet tall, smiley as ever, black man, awesome guy, and just like, listen, I'm here to change your train conductor theory. So anyway.
People ask me what I do at work, I legitimately tell them the same thing that Tom Hanks did in the Polar Express. Literally. That's literally what I do. Like there's no difference in what he did in that movie than what I do.
That's true. Oh my gosh,
man.
I'm
down the train screaming and singing. That's it.
That is awesome. Man, I'm going to try and keep a limit on how many conductor questions I ask you.
Ask away.
Okay. All right. This is my last one. Conductor operates the train or goes through the train, tagging tickets, keeping general rigmarole to a minimum. Like, what does the responsibilities include? Or are you just operating the train and making sure it gets to where it goes? Like, what's that look like?
So the engineer is responsible for operating the train. So engineers up front in the locomotive or in the motor by themselves. And the conductor is in the body of the train with the passengers. And the conductor, in all railroads in the United States of America, the conductor is in charge of the entire train, including the engineer. The engineer can't move the train without the conductor. The engineer cannot move the train without receiving permission from the conductor. And the conductor is responsible for maintaining the timetable of the train. Okay. So that's basically it. We're responsible for passengers on board the train, revenue collection. We're the lead supervisor of any employee that's on the train. We fall underneath the conductor, including the engineer.
Yeah.
We have to be trained in troubleshooting the train. If anything happens to the train, we have to get on the ground, get under it, and try to repair it to the best of our abilities to get it moving again. So we're like,
it's crazy.
The creme de la creme on that train. It's us.
Yeah. It's us. Yeah, it's only y'all. Nobody else. I'm not. Like, it'd be like a train and a plane well, playing this would be funny, but I am not getting out to see if I can fix anything. I'm like, nope, just let the pros do their job and let it happen. If we're in a car, made 20 years ago or older, then I'll feel comfortable, maybe taking a look. But yeah, that's awesome, man. Well, cool, man. This is you've been one of my oldest DC friends, people I know. You are one of the many people. We had Holly Garner on here a few weeks ago, and it was so cool to watch. I think I went to like the second or third Insta meet that we had here in DC with IGDC before it was even like IGDC, I think. And everybody was there. Everybody who was there, I got to watch grow, both as a photographer and their Instagram, and I got to watch. It was really cool. I don't know. I felt like all of us in different ways, but I feel like there's a few of you where things started happening. You're getting some gigs, getting some money, getting all kind of stuff, and then all of you have like ginormous followings now, and it's really cool. At least for me, I'm like really proud of y'all. I think it's awesome, and I think it's a cool story, and I think DC in general gets like people don't think of it as like a creative city yet, and I think it's like part of turning that tide is y'all, and I think it's really cool. So but at that time, maybe filling some gaps for me, I think that was 2013, 2014. Yeah. Were you a photographer, or were you only shooting on the phone? What's kind of your background in photography? What's that look like? So
photography started for me when Instagram came out.
Okay.
Instagram came out, and I downloaded the app. And at that time, I was a fire department spokesperson. So for Instagram to come out, I tried to find a way that how I can implement that into my department in terms of like, how do we use the social media platform? Like, how do I use the social media platform to tell the story of the fire department?
Yeah.
So, I just really feel like I mastered Twitter. And so I downloaded Instagram, and I started going through and looking at accounts, and I came across this account of a photographer based in New York named John DeGuzman, and that's his username as well. And his style of photography was real time. So that was his hashtag. It was the only hashtag he would use, real time. And he would take the picture and post it. And so you were able to see his day. And he worked for the Associated Press, and he lived not too far away from their Manhattan office, and he would, document his walk. And I was like, oh, this is so cool. So I tried to do that, or I mimicked it a little bit and tried it, and it didn't work out as great for me because my day wasn't as interesting. It was like the same things every day. New York is a lot different than living in the DC, Maryland area, especially if you don't live like in downtown DC. If you live in the suburbs, it's like, here's my drive on 495.
Yeah.
It's not as interesting. So downloaded Instagram. I started posting the real-time photography, and it didn't work out as much. So I started to go on walks through downtown DC, places that I enjoyed being. So while I was down there, I would post pictures of it, and I would get like 20, 30 likes on pictures of the monument and stuff. And I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. And that's where it started. And then I got in touch with, or I got involved with IGDC. At that point, there were only two photography communities in DC. It was IGDC and IGers DC.
Oh, okay.
And IGers DC, they weren't that active. I think they had only held like one instant meet. It was ran by a guy and a gal that had moved to DC from another area, and they traveled away a lot, so they weren't really active on it. And I saw a post for the first or the second IGDC meet. It was at Eastern Market. It was a scavenger hunt, and I went, and boom, I was a part of the family.
That is so crazy. That's awesome. So, and all that to say, gear wise was just your phone at the time, right? There was no like big camera in your life.
4, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh my gosh, that's incredible. Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome. And then what did that? Did Instagram kind of grow first? Because I feel like maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like you have some camera gear now. I feel like, as far as I know,
yeah, I'm surrounded by lenses and my book bag and cameras up here. I've got so many cameras now that I have cameras stored in a box. I have two 1Ds, Canon 1Ds in a box downstairs. I don't even touch anymore. It's kind of funny to say because I remember when I bought those cameras, I was like, oh my God, this is like,
yeah,
like I'm real. And now they're sitting in a box collecting dust. But yeah, but I will tell you this though. So I currently shoot with two 5D Mark IIIs, and I barely pull them out anymore. It's because I have the 12 Pro iPhone.
Yeah.
And it's like sometimes I'll look at an image on the camera and I'm just like, let me just do this real quick. And I'm like, oh, this is what I needed right here. Like, this is it.
Yeah.
So we're getting to an age where like the iPhone honestly is taking over. Like, I carry my camera.
Yeah.
But more than likely I'm shooting on my iPhone.
Sure. Yeah. There's something about like, for you, even like the situation you just said, especially if you were iPhone first, or you're like really enjoying it. And it's like even myself as a photographer who shoots weddings or whatever, and I touch my camera a lot. We shot 250,000 photos last year. It's like I still touch my phone more. Like, it's still the camera I'm most comfortable with, and if you are, it's like it helps you translate what you want to get. You don't have to. There's less questions on the iPhone. You're like, nope, this is exactly what I needed to have. There's like 3 things, or whatever, and you're like, okay, like here we go. And it's so funny. Like, I've been tapping a lot of photographers on the show where that's the thing is like, I might bring my big camera, or if it's like a challenging kind of situation or whatever, but, not in the weddings yet, but like otherwise it's like, no, like this is for name a certain brand's social campaign. They don't need anything. They don't need the megapixels. They don't need the low light performance. They don't need any of the stuff that people, care about on the photo level. They really just need it to match their brand. And it's like, you're speaking the language of the people who are going to see it, which is on social again. So it's like, like that's super cool. I love that.
Oh yeah.
That's awesome. When did things start to kind of pick up for you Instagram wise? Was it through IGDC? Like, do you remember your first gig that you got through Instagram, your first paid gig?
I do. I actually, it's something that I actually talk a lot when things have slowed down for me. I refer to myself as like a retired photographer now.
I love it. I love it.
I'm not in like the mix anymore. I'm not really popular anymore. So like, I feel like I'm retired. Like I look at like the newer photographers coming up and post all this stuff, and I'm just like, oh, look at that. That's so cool. And like, look at this young cat. But anyway, things started picking up for me. And in 2014, my mom was, beginning of 2014, my mom was, or actually the end of 2013, my mom was diagnosed with lung cancer, stage 4. And this is around the time where I was, this is probably I was very well known in DC in the Instagram community around that time period. And I was documenting her life, and everyone that was close in the IGDC community knew that my mom was sick, and that I was helping to take care of her, and that what was going on. So they were very supportive. So I took a series of photos documenting her last few days of life, and I posted them to people say Visco. I don't like saying Visco. I like saying VSCO. But to Visco, and Visco was just about to come out with their journal feature. We could create journal entries on Visco. So I communicated with them and letting them know that I was saving this post because I didn't want a lot of interaction on it, like you do on Instagram or Twitter or Facebook. I didn't want a lot of comments, or I didn't want it to be about numbers. I wanted it to kind of be just, I'm sharing this to this community. So I held off, and it was the first journal post in the country, in the world for Visco. I was the number 1 journal post. I was the first one to post a journal entry, and it was the portraits of my mother, her last days of life. And that got a lot of attention from people. And Visco, like, even went on, they talked about it. They referenced that journal post in like Business Insider magazine. They talked about that being one of the turning points of their company. And that got the attention of a lot of people, because not only people were like, oh my God, this is, very, very deep. Like, this is by an autistic photographer. So that got people really looking. It was like, not only is he able to capture, something so deep and something so emotional, he's on the autism spectrum. So businesses started coming, but the first actual brand that I worked for was McDonald's.
Oh, wow.
It was McDonald's. it's weird because it picks up so much, and I can hear like other rooms. But can you still hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So the first actual brand was McDonald's. They wanted it was through Popular Pays app.
Okay.
And it was 4 photos, and I charged them $50. $50 was my bid on that, and it was horrible. Like the images was very good, but I couldn't believe I did that. And it was at that point where I didn't really know my worth. I mean, like, I thought like I'm just an Instagram photographer. I only have, whatever amount of followers I had back then. But it was kind of one of those things where if I knew now what I knew then, McDonald's would pay me more than $50 for 4 posts that they end up printing and using in some of their stores in the Midwest.
Yeah.
So that was the first brand.
That's crazy. That's awesome. Oh man, what a learning experience, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's crazy. When was that particular gig?
That was it was either in 2013 or 2014.
Okay. Yeah.
It's very, very early on. It's funny. I actually have my Instagram account pulled up. I was like, in case I mention anything, I can easily just go in and look real quick.
That's right.
Stuff, but yeah, it was pretty early on.
That is nuts, man. That's nuts. What if you had to think about something from even that particular post or that brand partnership, if you will, like what's a lesson or two that you learned from that you got to apply to the next one? Like what did that teach you? And you're immediately like, okay, I want to fix this.
It definitely taught me probably the only thing that taught me is to shoot high and that low.
Okay.
And so because of that interaction, like from there on, like brands would reach out and I would bid on brands and I would go like $4,000. Yeah. We're talking like one picture. And I was like, you talk me down. I'm going to go up here because this is where I'm worth. You talk me down. Yeah. So that taught me to understand worth. It also taught me that I need to pay more attention to the brand. Like if this is a global brand that is making, X amount of money, like look into the portfolio of the company and figure out, who you're working for. And if they actually want you, they're going to pay for you.
Yeah. No, 100%. Yeah, that's something I learned a long time ago. Before I was a photographer, I had a friend of mine who was a graphic designer, and it was around the time that the Pepsi logo got changed or something like that. Mm-hmm. And I guess at the time, Pepsi paid like $500,000 for the graphic design, and there's all this like hubbub about from graphic designers that were like, oh man, like it doesn't look like a $500,000 logo. It doesn't look like it would cost that much. But my designer friend was like, but think of the size of the brand, that like this is what they expect. This is normal for them. This is going to be on this is their brand around the world, like the same way the Coke logo. Like how much would you say the Coke logo is worth now? I'd say an infinite amount of money, like it's globally recognized.
And it's just curse of Coca-Cola.
Yeah, exactly. It's just script. And that's one thing. Yeah, I think a lot of people don't know when working with like commercial companies, and stuff like that. But again, it's like that's why we learn lessons, and it's like, you just don't understand. Like, no, they have the budget. But I love what you said. Like, no, like say what you want. Say what you need, and sometimes those gigs, like, I had a corporate gig 2 years ago. Now I said last year, but 2 years ago, and what they wanted was a lot. And I was like, oh, okay, like they do want a lot. I'm going to have to charge a lot for it. And then even then they added on top of it. And I was like, okay, well then I have to charge more. And it was scary. It was scary asking for that much money. Even when you're like, especially for me, I didn't have, 1,000 extra thousands of Instagram followers or anything like that. But they said yes, right? And it's only because I asked. They would have gladly done it for less, but I made sure that we were, at the place where we both felt good about it, and that we could perform at a high level and give it to them. But that's so funny. Yeah, shoot high. Say, if you're going to say the number first, make sure it's a high one.
Yeah, make sure it's big.
Yeah, that's awesome. So since then, other than trying to make some more, telling people that, hey, you should charge more. What has your, life been like as far as, Instagram goes, pre-retirement, if you will? Like I feel like you were in charge helping out with the IGDC Insta Meets and that kind of stuff. What was that kind of process whole like? What were you doing a lot of? And, what did you think you learned during that time?
I really miss being a part of like the IGDC community more actively. I love being one of the community managers. Me and Lori Collins were the first two community managers.
Yeah.
Because we kind of all sat down and kind of talked about like the fact that it was needed. Holly, the IGDC was blowing up into something more than he dreamed of. And, we wanted to step up and kind of do more with that. So it was fun. I wish things had been different. My departure from IGDC, like as an actual community manager, it just had to do with some personal issues that I had with things that were happening in the community.
Yeah,
issues with community members, and I take a lot of things personal. I shouldn't. I take a lot of things personal, but one of the things it taught me was that about this app, and I hope I'm not overstepping my boundaries. Holly knows my feelings about this.
Only share what you feel comfortable sharing.
Yeah.
No pressure. Yeah.
This isn't like something she's going to listen to and she's going to be like,
shocked.
Also, Holly, if you're listening, I love you. But I learned that people got really infatuated with the numbers, and that was disheartening to me. And that was one of the reasons I stopped my involvement with IGDC. And it wasn't IGDC directly, it was just certain community members. And I started to feel really hurt by how friendships were changing and how people were using other people just to boost their own profiles and boost their own work. And I just got really sick of it. And I just kind of, just jumped off the plane and I landed in a nice place. But IGDC did teach me a lot. It gave me the opportunity to interact with so many photographers and so many creatives in the district. And it made me feel really good being like, there were these smaller accounts who were, posting amazing stuff. It made me feel really good being logged into the IGDC account, finding those accounts and, sharing their work or commenting, like, this is amazing, or like interacting with those small, because that's what I personally aimed for, was those smaller accounts. Not the well-known people, not the people that you constantly see at meets. Like, I wanted to find the people that, hadn't come to a meet yet, or names that didn't stand out to me. Yeah. And it felt like it gave me a lot of pleasure to be able to like have those people reply back like, oh my God, thank you. This means a lot coming from IGDC. Hope we meet one day. And that was my experience.
That's cool. No, that's awesome. I mean, there's definitely in those kind of communities, and we know this, and I wasn't even in there that often, but it's like, it's hard, because there's people that this happens the same time, at like photography conferences and stuff, for wedding photographers, where it's like, you'd only care about the people that have the K, in their Instagram following. And the reality is like, that is not a person's value, unless you're a brand partnering with them per se. Like, it's not a person's value. Like, they have other personality traits than their Instagram following. And and it's like, you make it just transactional. It can be tough, presents some like pretty ugly situations, and but the cool thing, like you were talking about, is like, at least in DC, there's new people moving here all the time, and see the city differently and want to make different work. And it's fascinating and it's cool. And it's fun to kind of be like on the hunt for, like, hey, I want to find the people who they know what they're doing, but they might not be as big as they should be, and that's like, in my mind, even with this podcast, sometimes like I want to hear from photographers who are doing something cool, doing something awesome, but like maybe people don't know them, and like introduce your audience to them or whatever that is. Because it's like, that's kind of cool. And I think the other side too of it is kind of like what you said too, like, if Phil Martin commented on my post, I would be like, oh my gosh, this is so cool, which is true. And I think too, there's like, there is a practical side of it where, like if somebody who has a larger account engages with you, it does help a little bit, or whatever. It's not going to save your life. It's not going to, instantly go nuts, but it can be cool. Instagram might like it. So, that's so funny. That's awesome.
I'll tell you something. This is semi on topic. I'll tell you like a headache, in my opinion, that comes with having a lot of followers is you sometimes feel the need to please them. You know what I mean? Like it kind of puts a little burden on your shoulders. You gotta be like, oh, I gotta make sure that, I'm posting content that's gonna get a lot of likes. I gotta make sure that I'm posting stuff that my followers are gonna like. And I don't want to say this because it'll offend my followers, but who cares?
Yeah.
It's like, so I created a new Instagram account, and it's Phil Martin Jr. is the handle, and I think it has like maybe 2,000 followers, give or take, and I have so much fun posting on that account.
Yeah,
it's like, because that account, the people that follow me on that account are the people who found me for the content that I post.
Yeah,
is Phil Martin, which has like 40-something thousand followers. Most of those people came from when I was an Instagram suggested user.
Yeah,
and that's where I got most of my followers from, is when I was on the suggested user list, and all these people started following me, and I'm like, I don't know you people at all. You people don't really care about me. It's Instagram told you to follow me. That's why you're following me.
Yeah.
But without like, those numbers mean nothing. Like those numbers mean absolute dick. Like those numbers are nothing. But
yeah.
It's one of those things I've moved on from. Like I no longer allow it. Like I post what I want to post at this point. There's still a lot of people who are stuck in that, mindset that they have to please, their K numbers. And
yeah.
No.
Yeah.
That post what makes me smile.
That's awesome. No, that's what it should be. It's one of those things where you can get bogged down in like the idea that you have to be somebody else, or it's like you feel like you can't be free to do what you want to do, and it's weird because, and I think the ultimate goal, or like having a lot of followers, in theory, obviously we know this might not be true, in theory is going to help you make money, right? Or like that's like or have influence or whatever. But for you, it's like you've gotten to kind of step away from it mentally, because you're like, you know what, I'm a train conductor. That's my full-time job. That's my first passion. That's what I love to do. It pays the bills, like whatever. And hopefully, maybe I'm preaching a little bit to you, but it's like now that account, it can be what you want, in theory. And if you lose followers, it is what it is. Like my business mentor, one of my coaches, like he had like 50,000 followers, and now he's at like 36,000 followers. And it could be easy to be like, oh man, things are going downhill. But he's happier than ever, and he's like, because he's doing what he wants to do, and you're trimming the fat or whatever. Like the people that want to stay and want to hear and see what's going on with you, like they're still going to be there. And then it's like, and people go up and down and change every day.
And that's
so
the people you want there. Like
exactly.
The people that matter, or the people that want to see, it's going to stick around because they want to see your work. They want to see, what does Adam up to today? Like for example, I'll take me for example. It's like, you want to inspire. That's if you're genuine at this, that's your goal, is to inspire somebody else.
Yeah.
And as long as like the people that you are inspiring will stay there, they'll still be there.
Yeah.
If certain people aren't inspired by you anymore, they click the unfollow.
Yeah.
Peace out. You posted something a few weeks ago.
Uh-oh. I'm nervous now.
You posted something on Instagram a few weeks ago, and I was like, oh my God, like I wanna shoot something in this same area. And like that right there, that's what it's all about. It's like, like you post something, and had me going to the people's accounts that you tagged and going through their locations, where like, I gotta see where this is. And I think was it James Jackson I was talking to? God, I don't think it was Jared, but I was talking to somebody, and I was like, yeah, Adam shot at this place, and I wanna do a shoot there. I said, I have to figure out where it is. And I did. Something that didn't even cross my mind. They said, why don't you ask him where it's at?
Yeah. No, 100%.
It was stupid, because I was thinking like, that's pretty smart. We'll talk more about that offline to find out where it is, but it was like such one of those like things where it's like, yeah.
I love it. No,
I'm sorry, but it was
No, there's a whole other world. I don't know if you've seen this. So it's kind of funny. So usually for me on Instagram, I'll make the location like a strategic choice, and usually, you know, where we live, I'll choose Washington D.C. kind of as a general choice, unless I am thinking something else. But obviously, you can always DM me and I'll tell you or ask or comment. I don't care, because it's almost like I'm making a marketing choice. But there is like a weird Instagram photographer thing where they won't share their locations or something like that. And I hate that, but there is an exception, and there's a group of photographers, usually like in the landscape space or like elopement photographers, who do they'll be at like national parks, or they'll be at, you know, really cool kind of naturey spots. And I do see there's like this culture of them, you know, shooting epic places, right? And they don't tag the exact spot because they're trying to like, you'll see this like you know, tag responsibly, keep Colorado wild, or something like that. You'll see that as like the location tag. And I guess the intention, you know, is to kind of like make sure that the traffic to this place is like regular, you know, is at a good pace, so that it doesn't damage nature, you know. In DC, you know, at least photo wise, we got nothing to damage. We got, you know, it'll be fine. We're not spray painting, we're not tagging anything, but so that is the one world where I'm like, okay, that makes sense. And still, those photographers will answer the DMs, but there's kind of an idea of like, you know, for you, right? Like 50,000 people seeing it versus a handful ask you, you know, you're like, oh, 6 people were like, hey, what's that cool thing? And you're like, hey, it's this weird alley outside of this thing, or
that was a big thing in New York for the longest time. New York photographers back in like 2013, 2014, they wouldn't tag, or they wouldn't tell you where they were, because they used to go to some dope spots that were up high, that were overlooking things, and they would not tell you. So
dang,
I'll never forget, it was one shot in particular where it overlooks the red stairs, where, and no one would answer where they were, because it was illegal to get there, but no one would tell you. They wouldn't even like give you just a hint, and it was so like they wouldn't answer you. So eventually, I finally got up there, and it was so easy to access. I'm sorry, like, I found out where it was. I didn't necessarily go for legal reasons, but like, it was just so crazy. It was like someone could just say like, "Hey, just FYI, it's on top of this hotel, but be careful because you shouldn't be up there. It's dangerous." Blah blah blah. But like, that was a big thing in New York. But you know, I'm old now. I don't want to explore. I'd like to take some portraits and talk to my friends about photography.
Yeah, dude, nothing wrong with that. I'm trying to get Andy Felicati to both come on the podcast. He said no forever. 2, you know, but I think it's fair, because he was like, I don't know if I would share it, and I was like, all right, like, that's fine, but I was like, it'd still be fun to have you on, you know, and talk or whatever. But IGDC had a podcast for a little bit. They were trying, and I'm like encouraging. I'm like, guys, like, start, like, let's just, you know, people want to hear it, and I feel like you know, at least in your, and I feel like there's an IGDC in every city, probably, and it's like you could start inspiring those other cities to like have these real creative communities, and hopefully make it not about the numbers, you know, and make it about community and hanging out and stuff like that. Like I don't know, I think that's cool, right? Because it all started out of like, think of everything IGDC's done now and all the people, and it's like it started as, you know, like you said, like an Easter market scavenger hunt, you know, as your second meet, and then like I think I came to one at like a museum or a gallery, and it was I was very impressed. It was so like, we showed up, and this is the taste of the fruits of the Instagram communities. It was like there was like some food laid out for all of us, and I wasn't even like a big Instagrammer or anything like that. So they're definitely, if you drank the Kool-Aid too quickly, I could see people being like, oh yeah, like this is, I have a big Instagram, so let me into things early, or let me get this or whatever. And I quickly saw IGDC as like, no, we're going to use this as like helping out the community, or we're going to use this as like, hey, there's a really cool restaurant opening up, and we're going to help, you know, be its first 100 customers, you know, to help it or something like that or whatever. And yeah, like the restaurant gets something out of it, but at the same time, it's also like, you know, the idea in theory is that these IGDC people are locals to DC, and then we're supporting our city or supporting the area, you know, whatever. And like, I just love that. I think that's so cool. And that's like so much better. You know, it's just like anything, using your numbers for good, you know?
That was one of the things that I like. First of all, Holly is one of the most amazing people in the world. And that was one of the things I loved and admired about her, how she wanted to try to do everything she could to help out the community.
Hmm.
You know, she never stopped. And I love that about her. And a funny story about Holly, if I can share this.
Yeah.
So the second instant meet that I went to was at the Arboretum.
Okay.
And I hope I said that word right. And it was there, and I got there early. And at the first instant that I went to, which was IGDC's second instant meet, I met Dave. And matter of fact, we partnered up. Dave was my partner.
Yeah,
And,
Holly's husband, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
Holly's partner.
yeah, and Holly and Dave are now married. So at that point, they were still talking.
Okay, yeah.
They went on a couple dates, but they didn't make it obvious that they were even like, I didn't even think they knew each other.
Yeah.
So the second meet, I got there a little bit early, and I parked, and I was on the phone with my best friend, and I was getting out of the truck, and I saw Holly and Dave kiss. Like I ducked down beneath, like behind my door, and I was like, "Oh shit!" And she was like, "What's wrong?" And I said, "I don't know if I was supposed to see this or not, but like the lady that started IGDC, she just kissed one of the community members, and I feel weird about this." I feel so weird. So like I walked in and met them, and they were like talking, and then I came up, they're like, "Oh hey," and I just was like, like it was so awkward because I didn't know what was up.
Yeah.
And I felt like I saw something I wasn't supposed to see.
Mm.
But I don't know where I was going with the first story, but I had intentions on telling that story when I came on.
That's okay.
To get the story out.
I'm just gonna text Holly so she's not blindsided and be like, hey, we got the story.
That is no problem.
That is
I
so
told her
funny.
after like a few years that like I felt so awkward because I felt like I wasn't supposed to see that.
Yeah. It's one of those things where you're like, no, like yeah, that is absolutely hilarious. I love that.
Oh,
that's so funny. Yeah, man. What are you shooting at all right now? I know you're retired, quote unquote, but like you said, you started this other account. Like, are you shooting? Are you having fun? Or like, I know COVID is weird, but pre-COVID, like, what were you doing?
The other, so I've worked even before I was a conductor. I was a photographer for the railroad that I worked for. Contractor, and I've traveled the country on those trains, and I've photographed different areas and passengers and conductors and engineers and the scenery and landscapes and trains and so many different parts of this country that I have this backlog of images, and I was like, I gotta share them in some type of way because I own all the images. So I started this other account to share my images from the railroad. And that's all it is. It's literally all train pictures, all railroad, and it gets pretty good interaction from people who enjoy trains and people who like the railroad. So
that's cool.
That's what that account's all about. Shooting wise, I've taken a real big slowdown from shooting. It's funny, I was looking at the list of clients that I have shot for. Yeah. And there's names on there like there's Apple, there's Dick's Sporting Goods, there's Kia Motors.
Yeah, McDonald's.
Yeah, McDonald's. Like there's a lot of big names on there. Yeah. And I sometimes like did I back away from doing this stuff too early because I had the momentum. I had the talent. I had the weight to try to pull clients, and I don't think I made a bad choice by stopping new clients and not taking on anybody else. Yeah. I still only retain one client, that's Amtrak. And All Things Go. Amtrak and All Things Go are the only two people
that's awesome.
Will pick up a camera for if they ever say anything. Autism Speaks, I volunteer my photography to them. There's actually a project we were supposed to work on it late last year, but because of COVID, it made it really difficult. But I'm really excited to work on it. I just did a project with the National Gallery of Art a few weeks ago for James Jackson that will be used in DC public schools, but that really isn't me shooting. That's more me talking.
That's cool.
But other than that, it's really, really slow. I don't feel obligated to shoot. I don't feel obligated to post. Yeah. I can go weeks without posting anything. It feels pretty good. But I do wish sometimes that I was still more active because I did enjoy the inspiration part. I did enjoy inspiring people.
Yeah.
But I am fulfilling that want a little bit when it comes to the railroad photography, because there are a lot of really huge, my Donald Trump voice, huge community of rail fans.
Yeah.
Take amazing images of trains and amazing images of the railroad, and a lot of them message me and say like, "Oh my God, I can't believe that you're one of Amtrak's photographers. I can't believe that you're Dr. I said Amtrak was. I can't believe that you're doing all of this stuff, and I want to be there." And so I get to communicate with them about my process, how I got there, and talk to them about like what steps I took, and I get to provide a lot of feedback to people because rail fans are very unique. They
I can imagine.
They are hard on for trains. God bless them. And they go, a little too extreme sometimes. And I like to try to be the voice of reason. It's like, hey, if you do want to work for the railroad, what you're doing right there is kind of one of those things that will prevent you from working there.
Sure.
So I try to be a mentor to people on social media when it comes to railroad photography and
that's cool.
Railroad in general. Like right now, the only thing I'm really focusing on is trying to share experiences. I went through a lot of ups and downs in photography. I've had a lot of butthurt moments. I've had a lot of times where being autistic kind of got in my way. I kind of blocked myself because of some issues and that are, normal with people on the spectrum. So
sure.
Now it's kind of just all about like teaching other people about what I went through. And it's kind of like, some people might look at it like, oh, he just wants to talk about himself, but it's not necessarily that. It's that I've hit so many different areas of this that I can try to share and prevent someone else from going to that same dark hole, that same corner that I went to.
Totally. Wait, I mean, you're like an expert in so many fields, both of either who you are or what you've like pursued, Mm-hmm. Like, there's one photography, of course, whatever. And then there's social media marketing, Instagram, all that kind of stuff. But also like you're a Black man on the autism spectrum. So there's a lot there. And again, you're like, it's not that you should be anybody's like token anything by any means, but like for a lot of people, maybe even in the IGDC community, like maybe you're our only friend with autism that we know, right? And so then at the same time that you shouldn't be our token one, you are also like, you're the spokesperson, like, hey, if we got questions, Phil's the guy. I'm like, hey, is this normal? Whatever. And that obviously that looks different than, somebody who isn't as high functioning. And again, that's why it's a spectrum and all that stuff. And at least for me, I know I'm thankful for that. And at the same time, like we can talk about photo stuff and doing good things and all that kind of stuff. I remember you were on the podcast with Brandon Harvey back in the day. Mm-hmm. And for me, it blew my mind. I was like, I had no idea. And that's like, I know that part sucks, that you have to be somebody that people learn about, but at the same time, it's like such a good, it's a good thing, man. And then the whole other thing, I didn't even talk about this. You're the only person I know doing railroad photography, bro. You're the only person. And so like, I think that is, from a business perspective and just an inspiration perspective, like, bro, that's the niche. Yeah. Like if there's not a king, you're the king already. Like there's nobody else. Like I think that's super cool, man. So I think that sounds like a really good place to be at. Like I know it can be easy to be sad about like, oh, this is what I used to do, or this is who I used to be, or this is what people used to DM me a lot more than they do now, or whatever those feelings might be. But like, if you feel like you're in a good place and you're in a sweet spot, that's all that matters. I think that's cool. And it's like, none of the past doesn't take away from you having it again, if anything in a more healthy way, if there are ways. I know that for me, I have to learn over time and say, okay, I want this part of something, but I need to go about it a little bit differently because it wasn't healthy this way. Or like, even something as dumb as like food, right? Like I want 2 Big Macs, but in order to have a better life, I should have just 1, or whatever. Or spare those out. Man, McDonald's is getting a lot of free ad time during this. Sorry, McDonald's. But that's really cool. That's awesome. Okay. That's really good to know. Well, dude, so good to have you on, man. Obviously, I've been wanting this for a long time, and I wish if people would actually listen, I'd probably have every IGDC person on this podcast, like just every week, just have it. But we'll make it happen. But dude, thank you so much for being on. Where's the best place? Mr. Two Instagram accounts. Where's the best place for people to go and get as much Phil Martin as they want?
If people want to see, what my passion, it's weird because it's like I'm very passionate about portraits. I'm also very passionate about railroad photography.
Yeah.
So like if you want to see me display my passion of portraits, Phil Martin.
Yeah.
You need to display my passion of railroad photography with some railroad portraits, Phil Martin Jr.
Yeah. All right. Awesome, man. Dude, thank you so much for being on. It's a pleasure to have you. And you're such a beautiful man. So I'm so glad we got you on here.
We're the same people, by the way. I don't know if you know that. Like, if you think about it, like the guitars, the motorcycle, the beard. I cut my beard significantly. The beard, photography. I think
that's all right.
No one's ever seen us in the same room. That's all I'm saying.
Oh man, I appreciate that. I feel better, like $1 million right now. So I appreciate that.
We've seen us outside, not in the same room.
Yeah, exactly. Awesome, awesome, Phil. Well, hey, have a wonderful day, man. It's so great to have you.
Thank you, sir.
Guys, thank you so much for checking out The Bearded Hog. It really means a lot. If you can, leave a like on the video. If you want to see more videos, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell for notifications on when new videos come out immediately. Have a wonderful day, guys, and keep being awesome.